and uninterrupted. The candidates for New York City mayor face-to-face for the final debate before the election. This debate is brought to you by CBS 2, TV 1055, News Radio 880, 1010 Wins, Common Cause New York, the New York Immigration Coalition, the New York Daily News, and Rock the Vote. We are coming to you live tonight from the City University of New York Graduate Center in Midtown Manhattan. Tonight's debate is part of the city's official debate program administered by the Campaign Finance Board. We welcome all of you at home and welcome to you here tonight at the Graduate Center. Everyone, I'm Maurice Dubois. We are looking forward to this debate. We ask those in attendance tonight to be respectful and not interfere with the debate. A few programming notes. You can watch the debate in Spanish on WLNY TV 1055. It's also being simulcast on WCBS News Radio 880 and 1010 Wins, and it'll be streaming live on CBSNewYork.com and NewYorkDailyNews.com. And now, let us welcome the candidates for New York City Mayor, former NYPD Detective Dietl, Mayor Bill de Blasio, and Assemblywoman Nicole Malliotakis. Candidates, welcome to all of you. A few guidelines here. There are no opening statements. You will have 1 minute to answer the questions and 30 seconds for rebuttals as warranted. Now, tonight, all of our hearts go out, most certainly, to the families of those killed and injured in the terror attack. We watched with awe and appreciation as Officer Ryan Nash quickly and heroically took that suspect down. Turning our attention now to prevention and policy and keeping our city safe. The terror suspect's New Jersey mosque was at one time reportedly under surveillance as part of an NYPD program that started back in 2003. Mr. Mayor, you ended that program early in your administration. Is there a way to monitor these kinds of threats without violating the civil liberties of Muslim New Yorkers?
Maurice, I just want to start by saying I am so proud of the people of New York City tonight for the way they handled this attack, for the resiliency, the strength they showed, the resolve. We are not going to let terrorists ever change who we are. They're not going to change our democratic society. And I'm so proud of the NYPD and all the first responders for how they handled this crisis. And New Yorkers just all are offering our profound thanks this evening. Yes, we can prevent terror by intelligence gathering. We can prevent terror by building close relationships with communities all over the city, by making sure that people understand the words when you see something, say something, but also encouraging a close working relationship between police and community that helps to draw out that information. The surveillance program of the past failed because it alienated our police from the very people we needed information from, and it violated people's rights. We can do better. And over the last 4 years, we've beefed up our anti-terror capacity. We've deepened our intelligence gathering. We're working closer than ever with our federal partners, and we're working more closely with the very communities that we need information from to protect everyone.
Ms. Malliotakis, surveillance or not?
Well, I also want to extend my condolences to the family members of those who lost their loved ones, and speedy recovery to those victims who are recovering. And thank you to our NYPD, the greatest police force on the planet, and Police Officer Nash, who, through their heroic efforts, prevented more deaths from occurring. I believe strongly that we need to give our police officers the tools that they need to do their job. That means supporting them at every turn. I will always be there alongside our police officers when they are doing their job. And I think it's very important that we not limit them in their ability when they get a lead. We're not going to be targeting any particular group or any particular type of religion. However, if there is a significant lead that is credible, we're going to give the police force the resources they need to do their job. And I believe it's very important that we work closely with the federal government to ensure that we receive the funding necessary to expand the programs that we currently have in existence as well. I think I ran out of time. But I also believe that we need to, in particular, utilize some of the preventive measures that are being utilized in other parts of the world.
Thank you, Ms. Malliotakis. Mr. Dietl.
Well, everyone knows my background. I was very honored, and that Officer Nash just as one of the New York City Police Department's heroes, and I love cops like that. He ran right to it. My career, everyone knows about being a New York City policeman, a detective, some of the biggest cases in New York. Security's been my life. For the last 32 years, I've been running a private security and investigation company. When this thing happened yesterday, my thoughts went back to 9/11. I was there on 9/11. When those buildings came down there, Commissioner Kerrick was down there with me, and I was with Bernie Kerrick down there, and I'll never forget that. What we have to have is an effective community relation. But as far as this profiling thing, worrying about it, well, just look at this terrorist. What did he look like? Did he look like the terrorist? If you looked at a dictionary with that beard the way he had, this is something that we have to get past. Political correctness cannot be there all the time. We have to have proper information, and if you have a lead, you get a warrant like they took a warrant on that mosque. We've got to follow through. I rescued a kid out of Istanbul, Turkey, an American young boy, 7 years old, who was kidnapped by terrorists about 20 years ago.
Mr.
This
Dietl,
is my life.
Surveillance, yes or no?
Surveillance, yes.
Mr. Mayor, the vehicle attacks on pedestrians in Nice and in London, and other European cities as well, they were eerily similar to what happened here in our city. Why wasn't your administration proactive, installing, for example, bollards, you know, those small stanchions, cement and or out of metal? They can block vehicles from places like bike paths.
Maurice, from the beginning of my administration, first I chose Bill Bratton as my police commissioner, and then when he retired, Jimmy O'Neill. I think they've both been exceptional leaders, and from the very first day we talked about how to fight terrorism, and we resolved to increase the number of officers focused on anti-terror activities. We created the 500-member plus Critical Response Command when we added 2,000 more officers on patrol over the last few years. And we focused on terrorism in a variety of new ways based on those very kinds of incidents we saw overseas. For example, at our big events, our parades, New Year's Eve, we don't allow traffic to cross through the parades anymore. We put up blocker trucks to stop traffic in a way we wouldn't have thought of in the past. We change constantly with the time, so we have more personnel, more preventative activities. We look all around the city where we need to add additional preventative measures like bollards. After the incident in Times Square a few months back, we added additional bollards at many sites all over the city. We're going to assess again and keep adding as needed. But this is literally an everyday thing where our police leadership, working with the FBI and working with our offices around the world, determine what trends we have to address, and we make the physical changes, we add the personnel as needed to address each and everything we see all over the world.
Mr. Dietl.
Well, my feelings are, you know, with the bollards, that's very important to put as much security as we can. What worries me is I'm a person that actually takes the subway, not for photo opportunities. I get stuck on the A train. I see the crowds. I see what's there. There's a lot of opportunities for terrorists to come and hit us in different places all over New York City. Intelligence is the most important thing, and getting that intelligence before the event happens. Also, I would call upon these Google heads and the Facebook heads and all those people to find out how we could use electronically to shut down some of these ISIS websites. We should be working together with them. We got the greatest police department in the world, and I'm very honored to be a former New York City detective, and I respect every cop out there. But we have to use intelligence along with physical security, and it's very important.
Ms. Malliotakis, are bollards an idea whose time has come?
Yes, my administration will be proactive, not reactive. We will have bollards where necessary, and we will utilize what they're utilizing in London, which is Talon nets, which is extremely important to stop a vehicle and destroy their tires before they get a chance to hit an individual. I think it's also very important that we could have a good working relationship with our partners on the state and federal level. In particular, we need to get more resources to expand our K-9 unit. And in terms of the blocker trucks, we need to make sure that they're manned with an individual like an NYPD officer who will be able to stop so one of those vehicles is not used in a Belgian-style attack, as we've seen recently.
Well, Maurice, can I jump in on that? We have the finest police force in the world, the strongest anti-terror capacity of any police force in this nation. Every single issue that the Assembly member just talked about, those protocols were determined by the NYPD. I have said to them always, they will have the resources they need. As I said, we added 2,000 officers more on patrol. We created a 500-member plus counterterrorism command, a critical response command. We've given them the resources. Those decisions on the use of the blocker trucks and how we align our personnel are made by police professionals, and I think they've done a great job of protecting the city.
Okay, thank you. The terror suspect is believed to have entered our country through what's known as the Diversity Visa Lottery Program. It was signed into law by George H.W. Bush, designed to bring in a wide range of people from countries that are underrepresented here in our country. Ms. Malliotakis, President Trump said today he wants to get rid of it. Good idea or bad?
Well, you know what? I think it needs further examination. I think that we need to be concerned of who is entering our country and making sure that we have extreme vetting in place so we know the details of an individual. I'm not sure that my parents, who are immigrants, would be allowed to come in if it was only a merit-based system.
What does extreme vetting mean?
Well, to vet, to know the background of an individual, if they have any type of criminal history, do they have any associations with organizations that try to harm us? I believe that's very important that we have all the facts. But again, I'm not sure that my own parents would have been welcome into this country if there was a merit-based system only. What I'm concerned about as the mayor of the city of New York is that we're not going to destroy our city records. We're issuing 1 million identification cards right here in the city of New York. And I find it problematic in a post-9/11 world that we're choosing to destroy the background documentation, including expired passports that are non-machine readable. If an incident were to occur where an individual is using that to gain access to a city building, to a school, or to open up a bank account to fund terrorism or other nefarious acts, an investigation is taking place, we won't have any records to be able to uncover an investigation. That's why I have said repeatedly that we can have the ID card program, but we need to make sure that the records remain intact.
You disagree?
Of course I do. Look, the ID NYC program was developed with the NYPD to be secure, and the NYPD determined when it was appropriate to do away with the backup records. The Assembly member filed a lawsuit to stop that and to expose a tremendous amount of private information to the federal government and to potentially see people deported who had done nothing wrong. When the NYPD testifies at a trial, as they did, Deputy Commissioner John Miller, and said, this is not about the security of New York City, this is not about fighting terror, the NYPD is comfortable with the New York City law that says those backup documents can and should be destroyed. I listen to NYPD, I trust their judgment. And one other point, I know my grandparents would not have been allowed into this country from southern Italy if these type of quote-unquote merit-based systems were allowed. My grandparents didn't speak English, my grandparents didn't have college degrees. My mother didn't speak English until she went to school. I wouldn't be here, and a lot of us wouldn't be here, if that exclusionary approach to immigration were the national policy.
Mr. Dietl.
Well, this is an easy one for me. I'm not hiding the fact I know Donald Trump 35 years. I'm not hiding the fact that I voted for him. Am I happy with him? I'm not happy. But upon him coming out with this Muslim ban, I reached out to one of the executives in the White House. I said, what is he, nuts? I said, what we got to do is we got to tighten up the security of everyone. We have millions of Syrians that are all over Europe, so the terrorists could come from Germany, from France. This is ridiculous when we keep going back and forth with this Muslim terrorist ban and all that. What we have to do is tighten up all security. Security is my business. And when you have the ISIS that took over Syria and all their passport places over there, they were cranking those passports out like nothing. We don't know who's coming in. In reality, security, that's the word. We have to be able to vet people and have proper identification. So this whole thing back and forth with the diversity and all that doesn't mean anything. Proper security. Vet everyone. Make sure they're secure coming into our country. Take it from Israel. It's a great country. They do a great vetting, and talk to people. Find out what they're all about.
Okay, moving on here, Mr. Dietl. Aside from being a detective and a TV personality, what qualifies you to be a mayor of a city of this magnitude and scope?
Well, first of all, my life was the New York City Police Department. I did what I did on the police department. I'm very proud of my police career. I was also a decoy. Remember, I got mugged 500 times, stabbed, shot at, all that. But I've been running a business for 32 years. I sold a $200 million security technology company in 1999. My business is a multi-million-dollar business, 32 years. I've never gone bankrupt. I've turned it around through the bad times of 2008. What I do is I hire the best people. I hired our great John Timoney, the former chief of the New York City Police Department, to be my CEO. What it's all about is hiring the proper people. And my current mayor has hired the worst people, from ACS to the corrections department. This guy Ponte from Maine, all of a sudden ACS, we had to bring a monitor from the state in. He's not hiring people. I run a business. I'm a businessman. I care about people, and that's what qualifies me. What was he and what was the assemblywoman? They've never ran a business.
Maurice, I gotta
30
jump
seconds,
in on
please.
that.
30 seconds.
I'm very proud I hired Bill Bratton, the greatest police leader of our time, as my first commissioner, and someone who he had worked with for many years, who's done a fantastic job as my second commissioner, Jimmy O'Neill. I'm very proud I hired Dan Nigro as our fire commissioner, Carmen Farina as our school chancellor. These are extraordinary
What about
professionals.
ACS, and what about your corrections?
And let me be clear, the people I've hired across the board, I'm proud of. There are always things we can do better, and if something isn't done right, it's my responsibility to fix it. But I want you to be very, very clear. The leaders we've had, particularly in the area of public safety, are the very finest in this nation. I'm proud to have chosen them.
Ms. Malliotakis.
I'm very proud of my record serving the people of Brooklyn and Staten Island in the New York State Assembly for the last 7 years. I have been a fighter for the taxpayers who have been abused under this administration and are seeing their quality of life deteriorate. I was on the front lines following Hurricane Sandy to make sure that thousands of my constituents that were displaced had the resources that they need in the immediate aftermath when the federal government wasn't there for us. I've restored bus service for my district, fighting on both sides of the aisle and the bridge to make sure that my constituents got what they deserved. I'm ready to change the course of this city and ready to restore integrity back at City Hall. We need to take the for sale sign off of City Hall and restore integrity once and for all.
Moving on here.
I'd like to
Ms.
respond to
Malliotakis.
there was an attack there. I think it's only fair.
I'm sorry, just 15 seconds.
Very quickly, the talk about being unfair to taxpayers. The Assembly member supported Donald Trump. Donald Trump wants to give the biggest tax cut to the wealthy,
attack on me, so I get to
wealthy
respond,
and
right?
corporations.
We could go on all night.
Hurts
Maurice,
middle-class taxpayers. That's it. And take away our state and local tax deductions.
Yeah.
That's the danger.
And I've opposed the president on that, taking away that important deduction for our people. We should be asking the mayor how come the lower income earners and the middle class homeowners in our city are subsidizing his property taxes on his $1.9 million home, and how did it end up that his home pays the least effective property tax rate in the entire city of New York at a 51 district?
15 seconds and we're moving on.
You asked me a good question. What qualifies me? I'm about to sell a keystroke encryption company, security technology, for hundreds of millions of dollars. You know what it's about? I came from nothing. I'm a high school graduate. I couldn't afford to go to college like these two, and I made something out of myself, and I want that opportunity for every kid in New York City to become successful, and that's what I'm all about, is success.
Okay, moving on here. Ms. Malliotakis, you constantly quote statistics that sex crimes against women in New York City are up some 25 to 30%, but the NYPD says it's up only 4%. So that's what they say, though. That's what they say. So what do you know that the NYPD does not know?
That is not correct. 4% is rape is the increase. Over the last 3 years, felony sex crimes in our city have increased 25%, and that is straight from CompStat. It's straight from CompStat. I could show you after the show.
Those are different
statistics. It's been a 25% increase in felony sex crimes, and I will show you on the CompStat website after the show. The 4%.
That's a state report. These are NYPD stats.
No.
Those are different numbers.
No, that is rape. Rape has gone up 4%.
Those are sex crimes.
Okay. Felony sex crimes have gone up in this city by 25% over the last 3 years. CompStat, and I ask everyone to check CompStat and look from 2013, which was the last year that Mayor Bloomberg was in office, to this past year, 2016, and you will see that there is a 25% increase in felony sex crimes.
Okay, we'll move on here to the mayor.
I have to respond to that because, like you, I have not been able to locate that statistic, and the NYPD,
I will make sure that everybody in the press has it tomorrow.
I have asked the NYPD consistently, and here's what we know. Crime has gone down for 4 straight years. We know on some of the most horrible crimes, murder down over 20% since this time last year, shootings down over 20% since that time last year. The NYPD takes crimes against women very, very seriously, constantly moving resources to address this problem. And compared to last year, we see improvement across the board on major crimes in the city.
Mr. Dietl, quick response.
Yeah, real quick about crime. First of all, Mr. Mayor, you're wrong. You heard of a guy named Greg Floyd. He's in charge of the school safety's offices. I spoke with him.
He's the union president.
Yes, and I'd like to put. Can I finish, Mr. Mayor? Thank you. My problem is this: you have assaults. Pick up the New York Post today. Knives. The school safety officers are told if you make a complaint with the police, you're going to lose vacation days. Look, I don't have to go back and forth with him. I know for one thing: there's bullying, there's assault, and the crimes are not being reported. This mayor is fudging the numbers, and I got people. I'll put them right in the city council. Why don't you put Mr. Floyd under oath in the city council, Mr. Mr. Mayor. You know why? He'll tell the truth.
Maurice,
and
whoa.
also, Mr. Mayor, that young boy that got stabbed in there about the magnetometers in the schools. Our schools have a lot of crimes, assaults, bullying, and you're not doing anything. All you're doing is telling them to keep
Maurice,
the crimes
I'd like
down.
to
Should there be metal
that.
detectors in our city schools?
I think when you talk to teachers, my young daughter is a second grade teacher, right, sitting over there from the Dunbar School. The teachers are scared. The parents
Should there be metal detectors in
certain
city
schools,
schools?
you should have metal detectors so the teachers feel safe and the students and their parents feel safe. And I tell you what, no cell phones in the classrooms. It bows the mayor. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, respond, please.
Again, we should not be listening to statistics made up by union leaders. We should be listening to the NYPD, which runs school safety for 5 years. School crime and violence has gone down 35% compared to 5 years ago. I'll give Michael Bloomberg credit for starting that. We've continued it. I went to the wake for Matthew McCree. It was a horrible tragedy. I spent time with his mother. We never want that to happen again. It's the first time in 25 years we've lost a child in the classroom. We never want it to happen again. But I'll tell you something. We are beefing up school security, and we're deepening the relationship between our school safety officers and the teachers and students they work with, so they have the information they need to keep students safe.
Ms. Malliotakis.
81% of the teachers at that school last year completed a survey saying that they felt unsafe in their own classrooms. 81% of the teachers. There should have been metal detectors at that school this year, and this tragedy could have been prevented. Aside from that, the reason why you're saying crime has gone down in the classroom is because they're not reporting it anymore. There are warning card system now. You have taken away the discretion from the teachers and the principals to be able to control their classrooms. And now you have an environment where students feel they can bring weapons in the classroom, drugs to school, that they could bully other students, that they could disrespect their teachers. We need to restore discipline back into the classroom.
Should there be metal detectors across the board in city schools?
It should be on a case-by-case basis. At schools that are troubled, absolutely. In a school like the Wildlife Conservation School, where 81% of the teachers said they felt unsafe, there should have been metal detectors at that school.
Moving on here.
Maurice, I've got to respond to this just very quickly. The NYPD controls school safety. The notion the NYPD is not admitting what's happening with crime. Both of them suggesting that somehow NYPD is not
under your direction.
If I may have 15 seconds.
Thank you all. We're going to move on.
I talk
to
to
report
cops.
what they see and act on what they see. This is the finest police force in the country. If you guys doubt the NYPD, go tell Commissioner O'Neill you think he's fudging the statistics. He's a man of integrity, and he is telling us the truth about school safety.
It's about leadership.
And every
it's about leadership. And you have taken away the discretion. You have taken away the discretion from both officers and the teachers.
Thank you all. Mr. Mayor, last week the real estate developer Jonah Rechnitz testified under oath that he donated more than $100,000 to you to get access and favors from your administration. Pay to play. Simply put, what was your relationship with this man?
I've said very clearly what we now know about him. We didn't know then. He is a liar. He's a felon. You don't believe anything he says.
What was your relationship?
He was a donor who provided resources at one point. That's all I knew of him. I did not have any kind of real relationship with him. I talked to him over maybe a year or something like that, a year and a half. That's it.
Will you release your phone records to
I've
clear
said
up
very
any
clearly,
doubt?
this matter has been fully investigated by the federal authorities. They took no further action. This has been covered and covered and covered again. We hold ourselves to a high standard of integrity. We make decisions based on the merits. We always will.
Is that a yes or a no?
And a liar and a felon saying otherwise doesn't change the truth.
Is that a yes or a no on phone records? Will
Again,
you release
I've
them?
said very clearly, I'm not releasing any more information than what we've already provided many times over to the authorities.
This email to your personal account at the trial, it was entered into evidence. It was from Mr. Rechnitz. It said, Norman under control, referring to the correction officer union leader, Norman Seabrook. He was critical of your correction commissioner. Why did Rechnitz have your email address?
He had my email address the same way thousands of people have my email address and use it. I've given plenty of people, from community leaders to labor leaders to business leaders, all sorts of people, elected officials, have my email address. It doesn't suggest anything. And again, he's a liar, he's a felon. It's been proven.
What is your take on pay to play, Mr. Dietl? What will you do to change that perception?
What would I do? I get rid of this mayor. Very simple. But here's the thing. Honestly, I went down to the courtroom, to the federal court down there in Foley Square. I saw his partner there that gave him $200,000. When I saw him testify and I wanted to take a shower, power. This guy is a creep. He's disgusting. And this mayor dealt with him. Here's the facts of the thing. $200,000 he got from this guy. He don't remember, but yet he went to his office. He has the cell phone number back. Oh, you want the people of New York to think we're that stupid that you didn't know this guy? He gave you $200,000. The other one, when you got dismissed there with Cy Vance, remember that one when they were investigating, when he ended the two cases together? Cy Vance got $60,000 from Praven Levin, your law firm. I got big problems. We got so much corruption in here. I call upon the governor to put a special state prosecutor against you and the attorney general to bring in the Department of Justice. This city is corrupt like heck. Who are all these agents of the city? You were supposed to talk about.
Let's let him respond. Let's let him respond, please, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
Again, these issues have been looked at by a number of authorities. They extensively investigated them. They said there was no further action to take. Everyone knows this. And some people try and exploit this moment to confuse the people in New York City. People in New York City are plenty smart, Mr. Dietl. They care about the things that matter. They care about the fact that jobs are up. They care about the fact that our graduation rate is up. They care about the fact that our police are driving down crime consistently while improving the relationship between police and community. That's what people talk to me about every single day in this city. They understand these other issues were looked at, and there was no follow-up taken.
Ms. Malliotakis.
I think the question is for the public. If they want a mayor who looks for that little loophole, the way to skirt the law to get an intended outcome for himself and his friends. The issue is not just about Jonah. It is about other individuals, too. The developer that now is getting property on NYCHA facility housing, Holmes Tower, to build a luxury condo, who bundled $40,000 for the mayor. Rivington House on the Lower East Side, a healthcare facility that had the restrictive deeds lifted and will also be turned into luxury condos because his lobbyist friend, James Coppolino, who raised $45,000 for his campaign, pressed him to do so. I am someone who has led the fight of ethics reform in Albany, first to call on Shelley Silver to resign when it was found he was using tax dollars to silence victims of sexual harassment. At that time, Bill de Blasio called him a man of integrity. So we have an opportunity here to truly change the course of City Hall, take that for sale sign off, and restore integrity so City Hall works for the people.
Mr. Mayor.
This might be interesting if it hadn't been covered already over the last year and clearly answered. Rivington was a huge mistake. It was one that I was not told about. I would have said no to it. It had nothing to do with any donors. I'm sorry, Assembly Member, that's the fact.
Okay.
And second, when it comes to the issue of development on NYCHA land, we're doing development on NYCHA land to save our public housing that needs an infusion. It has an $18 billion gap in the money we need to fix the physical plant of NYCHA. We're doing development on NYCHA land to give money back to NYCHA so they can actually fix their buildings for the 400,000 people who depend on NYCHA for affordable housing.
Okay, moving on here to more land use. Gentrification. Ms. Malliotakis, is gentrification a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, look, on one, it is a double-edged sword. It is, because on one hand, you're increasing the property values in the homes as you make investments and bring small businesses and communities that are going to bring life into the community. But the other issue is, at the same time, is that you're driving the people out. And
Where's it been good?
Well, what I'm saying is you're driving the property values up, which is good for the people that have been living in the neighborhood for a long time.
Can you think of a part of the city, a neighborhood where it's been good?
There's many parts across the city that are dealing with it all the time. People are being driven out in droves, whether it's parts of Brooklyn, whether it's parts of Harlem and the Upper East Side.
No, I'm asking where it was good.
Well, where was it good?
Yeah.
It's good in areas in Brooklyn where you're seeing revitalization, you're seeing businesses come, and you're seeing economic development. It's not that it's a matter of, not that gentrification is good, not driving the people out. We're talking about bringing economic activity to the community so they have good paying jobs. That leads to property values going up, which means that the people that have been there for a long time are driving them out. That's why I've said that we need to cap our property taxes. We need to cap the levy, which this mayor has increased 28% over the last 3.5 years. And people can't afford to pay that rapid increase in property taxes, and that's why we need a circuit breaker for the low-income earners, so that way they can afford to stay in their homes. We don't want to drive people out of their homes.
So what do we tell people who are terrified about being pushed out of their homes?
Well, you know what? Since I've been running for mayor for the last year and three months, I've gone all over New York City. When I've gone up to Harlem, and people come up to me and they said, "Bo, please become mayor." They want to make Harlem so Harlem. This is for all these developers, so they could charge the people more. This mayor started out 4 years ago. He started out like the progressive mayor that he is, about the tale of two cities.
So,
but you know what? I'm talking about the
what do you tell people who are afraid, after generations living in their homes, that they're going to be pushed out? What do you tell them? What's your plan?
You've got to put a stop to these developers that are taking over. You go to Williamsburg, they're not building the affordable housing that they should be building, and we need affordable housing. Also, the idea about NYCHA. I mean, a lot of people talk about affordable housing. We've got NYCHA, they believe it's 175,000 apartments. Of those 175,000, there's people in there, 10 to 15% have been in there for 3 generations. 3-bedroom apartments, 1 person. I could get homeless people into NYCHA. There's a lot of things about the regentrification. They want to change the neighborhood so they can jack the price up, and then you and me cannot afford to live there. And this mayor is not doing anything to stop it.
Mr. Mayor, people are terrified. You hear it all the time.
I hear it every day.
Pushed out of their neighborhoods and their homes. What do you tell them right here, right now, tonight, through the TV?
Maurice, it's the same thing I've told them at 43 town hall meetings around the city. The city government has to step in and address the situation aggressively. How do we do it? First, we provide free lawyers to stop evictions. That's never happened before in the history of New York City. Now we have a law that gives people free lawyers to stop evictions. Rent freezes. We had 2 years of rent freezes for over 2 million rent-stabilized tenants. That never happened in the history of New York City either. We passed a law to require the creation of affordable housing and development, the most progressive affordable housing legislation in the country. We have a plan now to create and preserve enough affordable housing for 750,000 New Yorkers, the most aggressive plan in the history of New York City. This is how we address gentrification. The previous administration did not,
Mayor,
just one quick thing, the previous administration did not intervene in the market. We have to intervene to change things. The last point, the Assembly member left out that this administration has not raised the property tax rate. The previous one did it twice. We have not raised the property tax rate, and we won't raise the property tax rate.
Mr. Mayor, we're talking about people who are going to lose their homes now. Not in 5 years, not in 10 years. Right now. What do you tell them now?
Maurice, right now, we had a rent freeze for people. Right now, we are providing the free lawyers to stop evictions. Right now, we've already created and preserved 78,000 apartments. I've been in the apartments of New Yorkers who, through the plan we put in place, are in. It is additional, Assembly member. It is, because if you're in an apartment you can't afford, we come in and subsidize it and preserve it.
And how is that helping another family?
You pay no more than, it's the family in question we're talking about. The families Maurice is talking about. If you're a family that's about to lose your grip on your affordable housing, we come in and give you a subsidy for 30 years or more. You can stay in your apartment, pay no more than 30% of your income in rent. Your apartment has been saved. Your family's been saved. That is a crucial part of our plan, and people all over the city want us to do that for them, and we're going to 78,000 apartments have been built or preserved already.
Okay, just 15, please.
The mayor's being tricky here by saying he doesn't support the increase in the tax rate. No, that's true. He doesn't. Neither do I. The issue here is that he's increased the property tax levy by 28%. That's the amount of money that he and the city council is going to property homeowners in our city to get more money. It went from $20 billion they sought to 26, and it's going to be $28 billion next year. And that's why there's a rapid increase in property taxes. So people, even if they paid off their mortgage, they can't afford to stay in their homes because they can't afford. And this is a result of his.
Maurice, that's just not accurate.
It is accurate.
But I have 15 seconds. Thank you.
Can I speak
What is this other program?
15 here, and we got to move on.
Mr. Mayor, you got this other program of giving a couple $1 million for people to move out of New York City. You got all the answers. You stand up here with all the answers. The people in New York City see right through the facade. The $1.6 billion in consultants and contractors. All I ask for, who are the agents of your city? Who are the agents of the city? You've never answered that. You think people listening tonight are going to take your nonsense and believe it? Mr. Mayor, you have a lot of lies coming out.
We've answered everything you've talked about. Here's the fact. We have kept the property tax rate where it is.
Not the
previous
rate, the levy.
administration
Have you kept the
raised
levy?
it.
Have you
We have kept it where it is. We want to make sure we keep it where it is.
Ask him if he kept the levy.
Values have gone up. That is one of the crucial reasons
they went
why
up.
taxes.
Okay.
The values of homes have gone up. That has been what is causing so much of the impact. We need a major overhaul of the property tax system. I'm ready to do that with the state, with the city council.
Years ago.
That's going to be necessary.
Okay, we see the differences. We got it. Thank you all. all.
Thank you.
Mr. Dietl,
Yes,
as a
sir.
private investigator, you were hired to look into the lives of women who accused former Fox News chief Roger Ailes, the late Roger Ailes, of sexual harassment. Why is a woman's personal life relevant to whether she was sexually harassed at work?
First of all, I'm a private investigator. You said it right. Right now, I'm investigating claims against some very famous people against sexual harassment against women. I'm a private investigator. I get hired by a law firm to do an investigation. If you got accused, or if this man got accused of sexual harassment, he would hire a great law firm. He likes Kramer 11. They would hire an investigator. That's what we do. This is my business. It's not that I dislike, I love women. Right now, I'm investigating hundreds of women that were sexually harassed by someone very famous in the city. My point is, this is a business as a private investigator, and there's no kind of conflict. I'm not against women, and I was never hired by Roger Ailes. I'll say it again. I was hired by the law firm on Park Avenue, Epstein Becker. They hired me for the 2 cases, and I did the investigation and told the truth.
Okay, duly noted. Mr. Mayor, you now say you missed the mark on the extent of the homeless problem in our city. But for 3 years, we and other media have shown you video of the growing number of homeless people on the street. At one point, we even showed you homeless people bathing in the water at Columbus Circle's fountain. Why did you ignore all that evidence?
Maurice, I didn't ignore it. We put a huge amount of resources into addressing homelessness from the beginning. What we failed to do, and I've been very open about it, I take full responsibility. I should have put forward a holistic plan from the beginning. We did that earlier this year. I think that's been a very important contribution to moving us forward. We should have focused as much on street homelessness as on shelter homelessness. When the administration came in, we were particularly concerned to not let shelter homelessness increase because mistakes made by the state and by the city in 2011 had greatly increased the shelter population. We created new tools to get people out of shelter, to stop people from ending up in shelter, anti-eviction legal services, subsidies to keep them in their apartments. We got 62,000 people in 4 years out of shelter and to better housing. But we didn't do a good enough job, and I take full responsibility, of addressing the street homelessness issue. Now, in the last year and a half, we found a tool that works better than anything we've seen before called Homestat. Intensive outreach with outreach workers and the NYPD, winning the trust of some of these unfortunate folks on the street who are often mentally ill or substance abusers, getting them to come in and stay in. We've gotten now 900 people who were street homeless, permanently homeless, to come in off the street and stay off the street. This is the beginning of changing the situation once and for all, and we're going to do a lot better going forward.
Ms. Malliotakis, you say you don't want to open new shelters in neighborhoods. You also want to end the use of hotels as shelters. Now, assuming you do both, where do you put these thousands of people? How can you have it almost both ways in this case?
We don't need to be building 90 additional shelters as the mayor wants to do in the communities. What I've said is that this is a mismanagement issue. He's nearly doubled the amount of money he's putting towards homeless services, yet the results have gotten worse with a 40% increase in street population this year alone. What I've said is we need to have a catalog of all the city, state, land, properties that may have come into the city's possession due to liens, and look at ways to work with nonprofit organizations that can provide senior housing, veterans housing, low-income housing. If we kept that property at Holmes Tower and we, instead of giving it to a developer who's going to build luxury condos, we could have given a request for expressions of interest for a nonprofit organization to come in that could potentially do senior housing. I'm sure the seniors whose children have now grown up and moved out and are now taking 2-bedroom apartments in NYCHA would love to go to a brand new one building on that property, one-bedroom apartment in that property. And that would open up another unit for a new family that needs assistance. We have to help people get vocational training opportunities, skills, so they can get a good job to help pay their rent. There's a lot of issues with people. It's affordability, but there's also issues with mentally ill. And many of the mentally ill are the ones that we see suffering on the street, that they are a threat to themselves and others. And they have caused public safety issues, individual being slashed on the subway, an individual being stabbed outside Salvation Army. We need to get those individuals the help they need. And if we had a mayor who could work with Governor Cuomo, we could have a New York 4 agreement, which is a supportive housing agreement that was very successful under 3 previous governors and mayors.
Thank you. Mr. Dietl,
thank you.
Your plan to deal with the street homeless right now.
I spoke about it before with NYCHA. Now you have about 60,000 homeless, and we all agree. My thing is that you have a threshold of about $55,000. A person's not supposed to be making more than $55,000. 10 to 15% of the people in NYCHA are making over that threshold. threshold. My point is, when I spoke before, that could be about 28,000 people that could go into the apartments in NYC, the 2- and 3-bedroom apartments. The other plan I have, you know, when you have homeless the way we see it all over the streets, we have a place I used to work on, Randall's Island and Ward's Island. We could build high-rise there for homeless centers. We don't have to put 10 homeless shelters. He wants 90 homeless shelters to make in the next 10 years. Everything's about 10 years. How about 10 months? We could build housing there for shelters and bring them in there. You have different opportunities with homeless. You have people who are mentally ill. You have drug addict people. You have people just lost their jobs with their family. A lot of people go to work who are homeless.
Where on Randall's Island? Ball fields?
No, you have right near Randall's Island. You have Ward's Island there. You have a facility there now, and you could certainly build it for very cheap. It'll be a homeless center. We could bring them in. We could see what the problem is, have psychologists there, clean them up, feed them, and see if we can get them jobs. There's a lot of things in New York City. New York City is the dirtiest city I've ever seen in the last 4 years. Let's clean this city up, Mr. Mayor, and let's give some jobs to the homeless, and maybe we could clean up the buses in the streets.
Maurice,
15 seconds, Mr. Mayor.
A lot of what he said is actually not legally allowable to create high-rises for the homeless. To the Assembly member's point, some of our points are very good, and in fact, we're implementing in this administration, including a massive mental health outreach effort that my wife, Charlene, initiated, Thrive NYC. But in terms of supportive housing, New York, the city of New York is already moving forward with a plan for 15,000 supportive units. We've already shown the state that we'll do more than our fair share. We're doing the work. I'd like to see that support come down from the state that's been promised. I'd like to see the Assembly member help us get it. But the city of New York is already building that supportive housing to help get people off the streets.
Maurice, do you know who actually benefits from the homeless crisis right now? It's all those hotel owners that are receiving contracts of $10 million a year. When you break it down by family, it's about over $4,000 a month we're paying. So there's something fishy going on here, where you see this relationship, where you see these property owners receiving a tremendous amount of money, and this is not permanent housing.
We're getting out of the hotels. We've said clearly we're getting out of the hotels. We're getting out of the clusters. That's why we have to be honest about needing the new shelter capacity so we can get out of the hotels once and for all.
Meanwhile, every week another one's opening practically.
We heard the differences.
Buildings, Maurice.
We heard the
differences.
differences.
They turn it into a homeless shelter. They get double the amount because this mayor lets them charge double the amount than what they were paying before they became a homeless shelter.
It's become a business.
You know that's the truth.
I think we heard the differences.
$1 billion over the next 5 years.
Again,
thank you all.
Want to get out of town?
We're going to move on.
Be honest with people about this.
We're going to move on.
5 years would be better served to get.
Mr. Mayor,
yes, Maurice.
You have opposed congestion pricing.
Yes.
You want a millionaire's tax.
Yes, I do.
To fund mass transit and ease traffic. Albany says it's dead on arrival, not happening. You do have this 5-point pilot program to help out, yet some people worry if, after the election, you might change on congestion pricing. Can you say it right here, right now, that you will not support congestion pricing ever?
Maurice, I'll say it very clearly. I've never seen a congestion pricing plan that I could support. By the way, there is no Albany plan right now. The only ones we have are from years ago.
So you're suggesting there might be a plan that
I've never seen one I could support. I couldn't be clearer. I literally have never seen one I could support because it's a progressive tax. Now, what's a progressive tax is the millionaire's tax. I was honored to be endorsed earlier this week by Senator Bernie Sanders, who supported the millionaire's tax because it's the fair way to address the MTA crisis. Ask those who have done very well to pay a little more so the rest of us can get around, and include in it the fair half-price Metro cards for low-income New Yorkers so they can have opportunities too. You know, I'm so sick of people saying what can and can't happen in Albany. I was told pre-K could never get done. We got pre-K done with Albany's help. It was a different form than I expected, but we got the help. We got pre-K done for every child who needed it in New York City. So if we start the discussion by saying what we can't do, we're not going to get a lot done. I don't think that's the New York way. The millionaire's tax is something that makes sense. The vast majority of New Yorkers support it. Public opinion polls show it. Let's go to Albany and say it's time for the millionaires to pay their fair share so we can have a subway system that works.
Okay, Mr. Dietl, what's your plan? Easing traffic and funding mass transit.
First of all, I would do a survey on these friggin' bike lanes because the traffic in Manhattan is so congested. I ride a bike, and I don't like the traffic congestion that's in New York City. And that's what people, you know, if you have an ambulance that has to get somewhere, someone's having a heart attack, you got to be able to get there. And it's really bad. As far as the congestion pricing, I'm against it. There's money sitting here. It's a gold mine, New York. This mayor knows. He's got a lot of friends that are very rich. But how about the foreign investors that buy these big apartments, $20, $30 million apartments? Let's put a big tax on their butts so we can get that money out of them. And that's that money we can use for other things. Big biggest thing I am very strong on, since I ran for mayor, I go to senior centers. I see people. These are the people that work their lives. They're paying taxes. They should get relief on their damn taxes. They've been paying their taxes their whole life. We should have more activities, more senior centers. These are things that he should be worrying about, because these people have paid taxes their whole life. I feel for old people and veterans, and that's one of my causes.
Ms. Malliotakis, easing traffic and funding mass transit.
Yeah. Well, first of all, let me just say, I think most New Yorkers would find it interesting that the mayor wants the millionaires to pay their fair share, yet he's perfectly fine with lower income earners and the middle class homeowners subsidizing the property taxes on his homes valued $3.6 million.
Wow.
I think people would find that shocking. However, when it comes to the issue of transit, I believe it is critical that we step up to the plate as a city to fix our mass transit system. We need to work with Governor Cuomo. I will take the money we have in surplus and make that a priority. We've increased spending $15 billion, and yet mass transit, the #1 issue probably plaguing our city, is still a disaster. We have to move our subway signals to a communication-based signal system like the cities of Paris and London and Copenhagen and Vancouver and San Francisco have. That will reduce the number of delays, which are now 70,000 a month. It will reduce the congestion, allow more train cars to run per hour, and it's critical that we do it. So right now, what we need to do, and day one, I will pick up the phone and call Governor Cuomo, call MTA chair, see how we can put that MTA plan, the emergency plan, in place, and then we have to come up with a much larger plan on how we're going to fund this transition to the 21st century, which we need to do because these signals are pre-World War II conditions.
Okay, more on congestion.
Maurice,
more on congestion here.
I've got to speak to this. It's a direct misstatement. First of all, like so many New Yorkers, I bought my home a long time ago. I never thought we'd see the kind of values we're seeing today in the city. And I'm proud of living in the community I live in and bringing up my family there. But look, here's the interesting thing. I don't hear the assembly member supporting the millionaire's tax. She's a Republican. She supported Donald Trump, who wants to give a tax cut to millionaires, to corporations. So let me hear you say out loud, you support a millionaire's tax?
I support you, millionaire Bill, paying more property taxes.
So would you like to look in the camera and tell people you support a millionaire's tax to fix the MTA? Are you willing to take on the millionaires and billionaires and tax them and get them to pay their fair share?
I'm taking on millionaire Bill de Blasio and his friends
so
who
you're
are
not in favor of millionaire's tax?
This is the issue with the
Let's be clear.
No.
You're not in favor of millionaire's tax to fix the subway.
Because you know what? You're not being realistic. The people...
You're a member of the assembly.
Yes,
you could go and fight for it.
The governor... but I'll be mayor in January. Now, but listen, the governor...
Ms. Malliotakis?
Because he's attacked me on this.
We've got it. We've got it. It's clear. We understand. Please, we got to move on.
A plan that is dead on arrival.
We're going to move on to the next question. It's more on congestion. This is something we see every day. New Yorkers, we're sick of it.
Yes.
Double parking.
Yes.
One truck, one car can block thousands of people on a road.
Right.
Why not enforce the law? Put tow trucks out there, make a statement, tow people who double park every day. Why not?
That's exactly what we are instituting. The new
towing
plan we're putting in place. We're very clear. We're not going to just leave the cars there when we find them. The proposal that I put in place for the next 6 months, starting in January, we're going to try something that's never been done before. We're going to say it's not allowed to make deliveries during rush hour, the morning rush hour and the evening rush hour, in key parts of the city.
But sir, that transfers the double parking to the rest of the day. So again, it just becomes congestion.
Let me clarify.
Why not enforce the law
the most
all the
important time of the day is rush hour in the morning, rush hour in the evening. For years and years, deliveries have been tolerated during those times. We're going to do something that's never been done. If those delivery trucks are coming when they shouldn't under our pilot program, we will tow them, we will move them, we'll find them. And imagine your morning commute are coming back at night without that one truck blocking up the lane that Maurice describes. It's time to do that. It's time to stop the blocking of the box. We're going to put more NYPD presence.
Mr. Dietl, please jump in.
Talking about transportation, like I said before, you know, the evaluation, you go First Avenue, you got a bike lane, you got this island thing, car double parks there, you got one lane it comes down to. This is a serious issue, and the serious issue has to be who invented these bike lanes, and if they don't work right, let's get rid of them. Also with the subway, this is very important. When we had the subway problems, we have not put capital improvement in fixing the subways. We put a Second Avenue subway line in there. My problem is this mayor stood by, sitting on $4 billion. Why didn't he release the funding? So get the damn thing fixed and worry about the money after it. It's a security safety issue. If you're having a heart attack on that train and you don't get help, you can die. My point is, he's got $4 billion. Let's use a $500 million. Let's fix it. Then I'll go with you to the governor. We'll go shake him down, okay?
Ms. Malliotakis. Careful. Careful.
He does enough shaking down. He does enough shaking down of those big donors. If we want to get serious about relieving congestion and traffic on our roads, we need to invest in a transit system that actually operates.
But what about double parking?
Well,
every day.
We should be enforcing double parking, but I don't.
People?
I'm not for towing people. I think we should be looking at ways to no, we shouldn't be towing people. The answer, this is the problem. Everybody always wants to look to hit the motorist. That's what his plan is. His congestion plan is to hit motorists with more fines. I'm saying we got to invest in a transit system so that's reliable, so people can get out of their cars. We need to ensure that we're utilizing our waterways and aerating more ferries where possible.
Wait a minute. We started
smart light technology.
Thank you, Bo.
We need to invest in smart traffic light technology, which is going to ease congestion. It's going to allow cars and vehicles to be assessed when lights change.
Okay, Maurice, this is the world turned upside down. She's saying we should start ferry service. We just started citywide ferry service for the first time in 100 years. She says we should go after something other than the motorists. We're going after delivery trucks.
Small, so they don't
by the way, when it comes to the MTA is owed $456 million by the state of New York. This assembly member voted to take that money away from the MTA and divert it to the state budget.
It's actually not true. I know, it's shocking because it's not true. Listen, I am a co-sponsor.
Okay.
No, hold on, because he's saying I did a vote. I am a co-sponsor of the lockbox legislation that would require that the money is never diverted when it's issued for transportation. That is very important.
But it was diverted.
We passed it twice.
It was diverted.
Passed it twice.
$456 million was diverted since 2011. You've been in the assembly.
Okay.
Transit
million
system,
cut from the
waterways,
MTA.
smart
You were in the
light
assembly.
technology,
You voted for that cut.
and you've increased the city vehicles on the road by 25%.
I like the spirit, but we're moving on. We're moving on. Mr. Mayor, commission you established now deciding the fate of the Christopher Columbus statue and others around the city. Why do we need a commission for this, but not for other issues?
Maurice, look, we have so many better things to talk about in the city to begin with. Affordable housing,
Why
the city
commission?
safe, bringing police and community together. The commission is, in fact, to come up with a single standard to address a whole set of concerns that have been raised over many communities. People who have things named after them that used to be slave owners, people who are members of the Confederacy. People are considered by various people in the city to have done things that were negative. We have to assess it and come up with some common strategy so we can move forward and put this behind us. That's the idea of the commission, a group of highly respected people who will come up with a vision of how we address these things going forward and keep moving therefore after.
Okay. This is our lightning round. You all know how this works. We're running out of time. We'll get to the statue. We'll get to it in just a second here, Bo. I'm sorry. You know what? I didn't let you rebut. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I say, Mr. Mayor, you're de Blasio now. You used to be Warren Wilhelm. I'm Italian. I'm Dietl. My mom was Tipinara. She was born in Catania, Sicily. Christopher Columbus was an idol when I grew up, and it's an idol to a lot of Italians. Regardless, the good, the bad, the ugly of history, there's no way in the world that statue should come down, and you should get your Italian heritage up and stand up for Christopher Columbus, okay?
As I said, Bo, I said my mom spoke Italian before she spoke English. She only learned English when we went to school. I could not be prouder of my heritage. The commission's going to look at a whole host of issues, a whole host of monuments.
Quickly, Ms. Malliotakis, please.
The bottom line is that I don't believe many people in the city of New York believes that we need a statue commission. We need a mayor, and I will be that mayor, that's going to focus on homelessness, on transit, on our education system, making sure our children are safe, that we have public safety on our streets, and that our litter is being picked up, the basic quality of life issues, the basic services that the people deserve. That's what my focus will be on as mayor, not statues.
Okay, Mr. Dietl, this is the lightning round. Quick question, quick answer. The constitutional convention's on the ballot in New York this election. Do you support it?
Totally against it. It's just another propaganda for special interest groups like he knows, and they'll take charge of that constitutional convention. I'm against the constitutional convention. Pensions are involved with this thing, and special interests will be rumble and bumble over there. There'll be another pay-for-play in Albany.
Okay, Mr. Mayor?
Absolutely against it. It's going to be in the age of Citizens United, special interest money, particularly going after the rights of labor. The Koch brothers and others are going to come in and try and take away labor rights and the rights of so many of us. We can vote no against the Constitution.
Yes or no?
I'll be voting no, and I urge others to do the same, but I do urge a yes vote on Prop 2, which is to strip pensions from elected officials convicted of crime. I fought for that very much in Albany, and now it's going to be on the ballot, and I hope people will join me in supporting that one.
Mr. Mayor, New Yorkers love hearing from their mayor every day. Ed Koch used to ask, how am I doing? Asked it all the time, several times a day. Will you commit to speaking to the press every day to let the people know what you think on various issues?
Oh, no, Maurice. Why
not?
Because I do town hall meetings all over the city. This is my 43rd I just did. I've done a call call-in show on the radio. I've done regular appearances on other stations. I do press conferences on a variety of issues. I'm not going to have a blanket policy, but I am out there talking to people all the time, and I know when you talk about things like affordable housing, that's what they want to talk about. That's the number one issue in the city.
Would you do it every day?
I'm going to have to spend most of my time cleaning up his mess, so I don't know every day.
Is that a yes or no?
I don't know. Look, if they have a question, I'll answer the question, but I'm not going to be doing media press conferences.
Every day?
Mayor Bill Dietl will do as follows. I'll put a deputy mayor in each borough so the people could go to my deputy mayor where I don't have to hear it from a borough president, and I'll get all the problems that the boroughs have.
All right. Thank you all. It is now time to hear your closing statements. Random drawing earlier determined the order. Mr. Mayor, you go first.
Thank you very much, Maurice. Tuesday, November 7th is a chance to decide the future of New York City. It's your city. This is your city. You decide the future direction. If you believe that we can and must create and preserve affordable housing for 750,000 New Yorkers, then I need your vote on November 7th. If you believe we can get safer and we're going to do it while bringing police and community together through neighborhood policing, I ask for your support on November 7th. If you like pre-K for all and you believe it's made our families' lives better, then let's go achieve 3K for all, every 3-year-old having that same right. And if you believe we have to stand up to Donald Trump and fight his negative and divisive policies that are hurting New York City and this whole country, I've been doing that. I'm ready to do it for 4 more years. I ask for your help to keep this a city for everyone, to keep this a city that's making progressive change, a city that you know belongs to you. With your help, we can go forward in this city and ensure it remains the New York we love, a city for everyone.
Ms. Malliotakis.
I have met amazing people throughout the course of this campaign, and they really want someone who's going to fight for them. The senior citizen who can't afford to stay in their home because of rapidly increasing property taxes, the veteran who is recently homeless because they were evicted from their apartment, the teacher who feels they can't control their classroom because this administration has thrown discipline out the window, the school cafeteria worker who earns $35,000 and doesn't qualify for Bill de Blasio's affordable housing, and then there's the Sandy victim who 5 years later is still waiting for the city to come in and finish reconstructing their home. They don't have powerful lobbyists, they don't have rich developers over for dinner, and they certainly don't have $100,000 to give the mayor when he calls. I'm fighting for them. I'm fighting for you, because you need a lobbyist, you need a voice, you need someone who's going to put your interests in front of the powerful, and January 1st, the for sale sign comes off the gates of City Hall, and we're going to restore integrity so New York City government works for everyone, and everybody has the opportunity that my parents did when they first came to this country as immigrants. I hope to have your vote November 7th.
Thank you. Mr. Dietl.
Maurice, tonight we're at a crossroads. The people have a choice. It's either Mayor de Blasio or Bill Dietl. I am a Democrat. I couldn't run on the Democrat line. My life has been working for New York City. I spilled my blood as a detective. For the last 32 years, I've been running a successful security investigating company. And you know something? As a detective, I know a criminal when I see one. Mr. Mayor, you're a criminal with your corruption and your pay for play. I want to ask one question to people of New York City. Are you better off today than 4 years ago with the homeless, with the subways, with the uneducation of our students in our classrooms? They're graduating, yeah, but they can't read and write properly. Are you happy with the affordable housing? You know what? You have a choice. I'm running as an independent, and my line, I picked it special for you, Mr. Mayor. It's dump the mayor. And you don't want to know what mayor I want to dump? I want to dump you. And I'm a Democrat independent, and the people have a choice on November 7th. And you know what, Mr. Mayor? I think you're going to be very surprised. The people of New York see right through your facade, and when they vote, they're going to vote for the bowman. Thank you.
We want to thank you all. This is a somewhat spirited debate, wouldn't you say?
You're the best narrator.
Thank you, guys. We want to thank you folks here at CUNY Graduate Center. I'll take that. I'll take anything.
Maurice, vote for me on the Stop de Blasio
Thank you
line.
all very much. We want to thank the folks at CUNY Graduate Center for hosting us tonight. We want to remind everyone, please get out and vote next Tuesday, November 7th. For more information on the candidates and their proposals and the ballot proposals, you can check out the city's official nonpartisan voter guide at voting.nyc. I'm Maurice Dubois. I'll see you tonight on CBS 2 News at 11. We leave you tonight with a message from the New York City Campaign Finance Board. Have a great evening.